Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. What a beautiful afternoon to get to share together. I'm Sarah Elizabeth. I am been a Jackson County resident for 4 years now over in the Barkers Creek area, and I am honored that they asked me to come and share music with you all today. And so I hope that you enjoy. Thank you so much. And thank you for all your hard work and generous efforts.
We'll ease the pain, the suffering of living. We'll sing one more song, one more song. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't give up, no matter what. We'll keep singing songs, singing songs, hey, yeah, 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 we won't die. And we'll sing, write, eat, drink, don't die, don't die, yeah, 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 yeah.
much. Could we give her one more hand? Thank you so much. That is Sarah Elizabeth Berkey. And you can get her CDs and business card right up there if you are so interested. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Enrique Gomez. I am president of the Jackson County branch of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Thank you. I'd like to welcome you to our second biennial NAACP Humanitarian Awards. We are a branch dedicated toward social justice and restoring this country from the damages and the ill effects of racism and the lingering effect of inequality in their country. One of the things I want to do is, I do have some notes. Okay, note the following. I'd like to begin by actually talking about more of our association and what we're all about. The mission for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People is to ensure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of rights of all persons, and to eliminate race-based discrimination. The vision of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People is to ensure a society in which all individuals have equal rights without discrimination based on race. So recently I had a terrible thought. Occasionally they come to my mind. This business of ending racism, it's hard work. In all its forms, it is hard work. It's seemingly insurmountable. And I asked myself, oh gosh, this is just too much. What will happen if I were just to leave the NAACP and stop doing the work? Other people can do a much better job than I could. Could I do that? Could I really do that? Would there be any negative consequences to me? I concluded that I probably could do it. I probably could quit. But this is, after all, a volunteer position. I could still have my job and my family and friends. But in so doing, I would most definitely commit a great act of violence against my political identity, my moral integrity, and the wisdom of my own soul. So I am stuck. I must carry the work forward. The journey begun by a black and white coalition in 1909 to realize the promise of this nation of freedom, justice, and equality, and to bring our people to a state of wholeness. We're not there yet, but the progress that we have achieved in this nation has been remarkable. We have shown that we will not be prisoners to our tormented history. We as a people can break free and shape our destiny. But I cannot do this job alone. I need you to walk this weird journey together with me. This is important because sometimes I get discouraged and lost in my thoughts and feelings. I have too many blind spots, too many things that I have not yet realized that are needed. In the immediate conflicts and frustrations, sometimes I forget to look up. I need your help to keep my eyes on the prize. And I will help you to keep your eyes on the prize. But this is why we need a humanitarian awards ceremony in our community to honor those extraordinary individuals and organizations that never lose sight of what is important, to recognize the work of women and men that through the constancy of their work demonstrate the power of the moral imagination that forces us to recognize the visible and invisible dimensions of human suffering as our very own, and demand that we all must come together to a state of wholeness. And the premise of the award seems almost unfair. I mean, how can we honestly say that one person's humanitarian work stands above all rest? After all, a simple act of attention and recognition followed by an effective plan can save a child in an abusive home, open a new life of possibility to a person suffering from addiction, to bring comfort to an elder who has been abandoned. I truly believe in the transformative power of love. We hope that these awards offer that power of education, of the moral imagination of everyone in our community, that we may be more responsive to each other by illustrating what is possible and what entering a state of wholeness looks like. So at this point, what I want to do is note the following. We do have some elected officials in our community. I recognize Linda Sossaman, who's mayor of Silva. Linda, if you could please stand up so we can recognize her. Okay, thank you so much for coming and staying with us. And are there any more elected officials in our midst today? Is there anybody running for office? Okay, well, maybe you might be inspired to run for office after this, and maybe you make an announcement at the end of the presentations. Why not do that? Indeed, why don't you even consider doing that? So at this point, also, what I'd like to do is recognize our Assistant Press Secretary, Joy Stratton, who is going to talk to you about the awards process and how we went about actually selecting both our finalists and our awardees. Okay, Joyce, thank you. Please give her a hand.
Good afternoon. Okay. On page 7 in your program is what I'm just going to summarize. And to begin with, the person that was nominated must be a resident of Cherokee, Clay, Graham, Jackson, Macon, or Swain County. And the service had to be done in one of those counties as well. And service really is defined real broadly and is not chosen on how much you did or how long you did it, but just that you did it. And this year, the Freedom Fund Committee we are the ones that are putting on this event, and we mailed out over 500 letters to individuals and to organizations. And also we surveyed our NAACP members and sent them also a nominee letter form so that they could go on their social media or their personal contacts or their church or to solicit nominations. And on the deadline, or when the deadline was reached, a subcommittee of the Freedom Fund Committee reviewed them and narrowed them down to a set of finalists. And we originally wanted to have 5 individual and 3 organization finalists, but the subcommittee, impressed by the range of organizations nominated, decided just to have 4. And as far as the array of services, some were intensive, some were extensive. And what we are honoring here today is people serving people, of neighbors, of helping hands. We highlighted representative work more than a particular type of service. And then the winner committee, composed of individuals beyond the Freedom Fund Committee, reviewed the finalist applications and determined the winners. And if you were nominated, please don't think that you weren't a winner, because all nominees are winners. And we want to impress that upon you and let you know that we didn't just say, oh, well, they weren't good enough, because you were all good if you were nominated. And the Good Samaritan parable serves as our model. We are commanded to love our neighbors as ourselves and to recognize that our neighbor may be the stranger. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joyce. What I want to do now is talk about our previous awardees. We had a ceremony back in 2015, the first time that we did this. And I want to talk about community table. Now, if you look at page number, I believe page 4 in your program, you'll see more about that. So I'm not going to repeat some of that, but a few notes. We awarded the nonprofit community table for consistently building a strong core of volunteers and community backers, achieving success in obtaining grants and securing benefactors to fight job insecurity and food insecurity in our community. Community table mobilizes individuals on a daily basis to stock its pantry, garden, kitchen, and dining room. The community table staff is a model of how to sustain an effort long-term while maintaining and respecting the lives of the people it serves. And I am wondering if there's anybody from the community table present. Is anybody from the community present? Okay, we have some folks. And if you could please stand up, yes. Yes, if you can just stand up, yes, for your knowledge. And also, if you have ever volunteered in the community table, please stand up too. Yeah, anybody, whoever has ever volunteered in the community table, thank you so much. Also for your work. So we're talking about folks that since its inception, in my estimates, in my calculations, and someone correct me if I am wrong, my estimates, they have handed out upwards of 400,000 meals. Since inception, and have taken advantage of 200,000 volunteers hours. So it's a constant presence in our community and reminder that bringing people food is not just about restoring them, it's also about bringing them to a place of dignity. The other person that we awarded for, the other award in 2015 was for Veronica Nicholas. Veronica Nicholas, who passed away this past year, she served as a member of the county commissioners for 10 years, where she fought an uphill battles in the areas of healthcare, mental health services, and services for the aging and children. She was a founding member of ARF, the Animal Relief Fund, and related services for animals, and sustained a gentle but effective advocacy of animal care. She has long served on the board of many local nonprofits, including the Smoky Mountain Mental Health Services, the Community Table, Mountain Projects, the Region A Partnership for Children, the former Mountain Stewardship Alliance, and numerous others. She also was a founding member of our NAACP branch. And as an active founder and participant of the Jackson County Neighbors in Need program, which addresses local homelessness, she worked tirelessly to raise funds and an awareness of those who find themselves without warm shelter, especially in the winter months. Veronica also worked to confront the powerful Duke Power Company, then Nathan Hale Power, and won a battle against the rate increases and confronted and brought to justice a powerful official eventually convicted of vote buying. And even though we lost Veronica this past year, we feel proud to have been her friend and have no doubt in a lasting impact in our community. And my fiancé and I the other day were going over to Silver Lining, which is a store that is a benefit for Circles of Hope. Some of you are volunteer to Circles of Hope, and as I was just looking through all this stuff, I kind of found this. I found the stone, and it has the name Veronica in it. And I found out later on that indeed her family donated many of her things to Circle of Hopes and Silver Lining to benefit the community. And I put this in my mantle as a reminder to myself that you can have a tremendous lasting impact in your community, both in visible and in hidden ways. And I see that they are members of Veronica's family here with us. If you could just please stand up, so we can just acknowledge we have Colin here. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you for those things. Next thing I want to do is that I want to present the Reverend Charles Lee from Liberty Baptist Church here in Silva to give us the keynote address. Please give him a hand, Reverend Charles Lee.
Good afternoon. To the Honorable Mayor, to the President Enrique Gomez, to the officers and members of the NAACP, to our honored nominees, and to our visitors as well. Greetings in the marvelous and matchless name of Him who sits high and look low. What an awesome occasion this is, where we gather together to commend and to celebrate the sacrificial service of both individuals and organizations that relentlessly labor to improve the quality, climate, and conditions of our communities. And this evening, I want to speak from the subject, the call to service. Now, these individuals and organizations are actual models of ministry. Ministry is not an exclusive term that is solely reserved for religious-based institutions. Simply put, ministry is the service that is rendered to others without expectation of compensation or reward. As such, it is something that anyone can do and everyone has been called to do. This is the expectation of the Almighty, that every individual utilize his or her time, talent, and treasure in service to others. The question is not whether we are called to serve, nor is the question whether we should serve. The real question is, are we serving? In the Gospel of Luke, the 9th chapter, we view Jesus in his final days of his earthly ministry. Now, Jesus' ministry can be divided into 3 distinct phases. The first phase was the period of obscurity. This is when little is recorded or known about the Savior. Scripture provides only a brief commentary of his immaculate conception, and then only a thin take of a transaction that takes place in the temple at the age of 12. But other than that, for the first 30 years, we know nothing of Jesus. But then the second period is the period of popularity. This is the period when large crowds would flock all around him in hopes that he would heal them or deliver them from Roman oppression. But then the final phase is the period of persecution. This is the time when the forces of darkness descend to undermine and to unravel, some through legislation, others through executive orders, trying to undermine the hope, the love, and the opportunity that he offered to those who were less fortunate. It was during this highly charged atmosphere that Jesus stood and once again extended an invitation to service. He did it by saying, if anyone desires to be my disciple. And I got to tell you that there were many in the crowd who desired to possess the power he possessed. They wanted the passion and the position and the popularity that he retained. They were awestruck over his unusual aptitudes. They were baffled by his supernatural abilities. They were captivated by his uncanny command. There were some in the crowd who were even moved by his miracles. But tragically, many were appalled over his mission. The attitudes of that day were eerily similar to the attitudes of our day and the current administration that is located at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. They advocated that the location of one's birth, the color of one's skin, one's sexual orientation, one's economic condition was the divine station and the permanent destination decreed and designed by God Almighty. They justified their oppression of the underprivileged. They rationalized restrictions on quality health care. They legitimized anti-living wages through regulations for those who were unfortunate. They vehemently opposed Jesus' social agenda. You know, his social agenda was leveling the playing field. He said, I came to pull down every mountain and hill that's high, to raise up every valley that was low. He said, to straighten out all of those crooked transactions, to smooth out and to pave all of those rough policies. But notice, Jesus' call to service was not merely aimed at his opposition. His call was intended as a turning point for those who were following from afar. It was designed to alert those who was curious but not fully committed. Those who were gifted but not 100% in the game. Many of them was copping out on their commitment. So Jesus addresses and identifies the cost of service to those that were in attendance. He did so by saying, if any will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. And I've got to say that service is hard. It's sometimes agonizing. We need not be surprised, because it's hard, if we were to be honest, to deny our own desire. Sometimes it's difficult. And sometimes, if we were to look inside, most of our time and attention is internally focused on our own needs and desires. Now, not only did Jesus tell them to deny themselves, but he said they got to take up the cross of service. It is symbolic of undeserved suffering, which alleviates and even substitutes for the suffering of another who may or may not deserve it. And oh, brothers and sisters, this service is voluntary. It's something that is done as a matter of choice, an act of the will. The decision is seldom painless and almost never easy. It is personal. He says, take up his cross. In this day of designer suits and customized clothes, it is unique to discover that even our cross is customized and personalized. You see, what is easy for one is extremely challenging for another. Every person, however, contains the capacity to serve despite the difficulty. Then he informs them that it is ongoing, it is daily. Now, wouldn't it be nice that if we only had to do one job, did it once, and was done with it? I don't have a problem dealing with problems like that I complete and get over. But the problem that if when you tackle it, and the next day is just as large as it was the day before. And oh, brothers and sisters, he tells us that we've got to do it daily. Now, when Jesus finished, when he ended his conversation, he extended the call of service. He did it by elaborating on the cost of the service. And after he had done that, a certain expert of the law, he stood up to challenge Jesus' moral stance. He did it by asking what must be done to inherit eternal life. Jesus turns to him and says, what is written in the law? And how do you interpret it? The lawyer poetically replied, love the Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus confirms the accuracy of this man's academic answer. But then he instructs him to incorporate that knowledge into his everyday lifestyle. But the man, desiring to defend his dormancy, wanted to know who actually was his neighbor. Jesus then tells a practical parable to illustrate the clear character of service. And brothers and sisters, he tells us that service crosses all barriers of culture and community to aid in the alleviation of another one's anguish. Jesus says a certain man, notice, no name was given, whereby the doctor could trace the family tree. No age was provided. No occupation was identified. The social status seemed to remain a secret. The person's color and class were concealed. Why did Jesus do this? Because none of those features should be a factor in providing fundamental service for those that are in need. Jesus tells us that this man was journeying from Jerusalem to Jericho. Now you got to notice the contrast. Jerusalem is that holy city that houses the temple of God. Yahweh has chosen to make this place his permanent dwelling place, whereas Jericho was the city that was conquered and cursed by General Joshua because of its corruption. The Jericho road is symbolic of the road of life. It starts out wide with a lot of possibilities. It's well populated. But through the course of time, it becomes dangerously narrow, with winding serpentine-like turns, with steep drops off the side. And I know that most of us don't like to admit it, but all of us have traveled on the Jericho road. All of us have gone down the wrong road, sipped from the wrong cup, smoked. I know y'all don't want to tell it, but some of y'all old ones too smoked the wrong kinds of cigarettes. Ate from the wrong kitchen, and even slept on the wrong couch. And you too fell amongst the thieves that stripped you, robbed you and wounded you and left you half dead. While Jesus is telling this parable, I'm sure that these folk could see themselves in it. And Jesus tells them that a priest happened to be going down the same road. Now, priests were those who interceded, who pleaded, who mediated with God on behalf of mankind. The priests were intimately aware of the frailty of human flesh. The priests were aware of God's righteous character and man's wicked conformation. The priest is supposed to stand in the gap. Yet, this priest dispassionately dismisses his divine duty by disregarding the distress of this dude who's laying in the ditch. Now, I was talking with a preacher, and he was trying to tell me and trying to defend the actions of this indefensible behavior. He was trying to tell me, well, the priest was headed to the temple. Well, that's not the case, because the Bible said he was coming down. Anybody who knows Jerusalem, to go to the city of Jerusalem, you got to go up the hill. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, the priest was headed to the temple. Well, all of a sudden, that did not stop him from performing his vital role of service. They said, well, the priest had to offer prayers and incense. Yeah, but there were more than 2,000 priests in that day. I tell folk all the time, I ain't the only preacher. You ain't got to sing every song, pray every prayer. God got some other folk who can labor as well. The priest could have stopped and assisted. And then somebody say, well, had he assisted, he would have defiled himself. That's true, but in the law, there was provisions for cleaning. And brothers and sisters, that's what justification attempts to do. It attempts to rationalize inexcusable behavior. It attempts to rationalize one's refusal to serve. But then the Bible informs us that a Levi walked over for a closer assessment. But he stopped short of administering assistance. But then there was a Samaritan. The Samaritan did not worship in Jerusalem. They worshiped on a different mountain. The Samaritans come from a region that welcomed outlaws. They authorized interracial marriages. They adopted pagan customs and practices. The Samaritans were regarded by the Jews as the worst of the human race. But notice the actions of this Samaritan, the love and service he supplies. The Samaritan took pity on the man. He cleaned the man's wounds with wine, sealed them with oil, then bandaged them up, placed the man on his own donkey, took the man to an inn, and paid for his care. And then he spoke with the innkeeper and promised to cover any additional expense if it was incurred. And brothers and sisters, you got to ask yourself, who demonstrated the character of love and service? When Jesus asked this question to the lawyer responded, the one who showed mercy. Jesus tells him to go and do likewise. And I told you about Jesus' call to service. We spoke about his discourse on the cost of service. We viewed his parable about the character of service. But as I close, I want to make sure that you understand that there is divine compensation for the service that you render. The Lord tells us that one day there's going to be a separation. God's going to separate the sheep from the goats. He's going to separate those who merely profess the need for service and the ones who actually provide service. He's going to separate those who pitch lip service and those who perform sacrificial service. He's going to separate those who place policy over people from those who provide practical provisions. One group will hear him say, "Come ye," and the other group will hear him say, "Depart from me." So this afternoon, I want to ask you, which group will you be a member of? Which line are you standing in? And I want to tell you that if you find yourself in the wrong line, if you're in the line of indifference, inactivity, if you're not being moved and assisting folk, the good news is that there's still time to change lines. You can get in the right line. The Lord has provided a way for us to start laboring immediately if we'll just look out among us. You ain't got to go far. There's needs in your own community. And all you've got to do is be willing to address those needs. And I'm here to tell you that if you will stand up and address those needs, there is a power greater than you that will aid and assist you and empower you. I tell folk all the time, there's something about the Lord. Even when you're tired, he's got a way of putting running in your feet. He's got a way of putting clapping in your hands, putting a smile on your face. And sometimes it comes at your lowest ebb. Sometimes when you see children and folk in trouble, they will say a word that will inspire you to run on just a little while longer. And so the challenge for today is that if you're serving, to keep serving. If you're not serving, today is the day to get in the right line. God bless you.
Thank you so much for this message this afternoon. Now, what I want to do is that we are going to do the organizational awards. We're going to, after this, we're going to have some music, and then we're going to do the individual awards. For the individual awards, what we're going to do is that we're going to, I'm going to invite the presenters to come up here and do this. But after we do the presentation, what we can do is that those of you who are representing those organizations that are finalists, if we could have them stand up and present yourselves so we can acknowledge you, and we'll do the presentation awards. So at this moment, what I'd like to do is invite Marshall Lee Baker and Sue Ellen Bridgers. If you could please give them a hand and have them come up here and do a presentation. Thank you.
I'm the prop person. I really am glad that I was able to acknowledge the finalists for the organization awards, because one of my favorite words in the world is collaboration. And organizational awards go to two or more people who've gathered together and decided, louder, me louder? All right, thank you. I see what you were doing. Down on this, okay. Okay, so, and collaboration was so good in our communities that we have 4 finalists, not just 3 this year. All of these organizations ask some kind of question like, who needs what? And then, how can we help? How can we help? And the Boys and Girls Club of the Plateau asked, what our children need in this community? And how can we fulfill that need or help fulfill it? As a result, the Boys and Girls Club of the Plateau was founded by people of southern Jackson County. And they decided the best way they could help the children in their area was to provide an after-school program. The Boys and Girls Clubs of the Plateau, they provide educational enrichment opportunities, dedicated time for homework and tutoring. Thank you especially for that. 6 to 18-year-olds. Their wellness project at the Boys and Girls Club increases physical activity, improves nutritional habits, assists developing healthy relationships, and teaches skills for resilience and responsibility. They serve on average about 75 children per day. 2 of our groups asked the question, what do our hungry folks need? And a Manna Food Bank asked that, what do the hungry folks in our region need and what can we do? Manna Food Bank was founded in Asheville and as a member of the national organization Feeding America. And they help feed people in our 16 western North Carolina counties. And Jackson County, of course, receives a portion of Manna's average of 34,000 meals a day and thousands of kids' food packs. They also help households apply for food stamps and locate other means of securing food. What do hungry people need in our community? What if you're a fewer number of volunteers who gather together to say, how can we help fulfill that need? St. John's Episcopal Church Garden Ministry cleared land and developed a plot of land to produce and provide fresh, organic produce, all right here in our local community. Some of this food has been provided to the community table and through United Christian Ministries. And more recently, food has gone to Vecinos Farm Worker Health Program, and they provide food boxes for about 20 families weekly.
It's been a safe place to land, a resident at the Clean Slate House said. It's our home, and the women treat it here like a home. We want this house to be here years after we've moved on. We want it to be a safe place for other women to heal and learn and grow, just as it has been for us. Since 2011, the Clean Slate Coalition has been helping women in crisis restore or redirect their lives. These women have come from prison, from unhealthy and hopeless environments, from rehab centers, from addiction treatment programs, from deep depression and anxiety. Here I can continue to heal, one resident told me. I have a job, I have counseling, I have medical attention, I have resources I could not have found on my own. I have a home to return to after work and attending my AA meetings. I'm learning what I need to do to be a whole person, and Clean Slate is helping me. The Clean Slate Coalition began in 2010 when Alice Mason, now deceased, and Marsha Kreitz were chaplains at the Jackson County Detention Center. While performing their duties there, they realized that most of the women leaving incarceration had no safe place to go. Some were returning to the same environment they had left. Some were homeless. Acting on their concern, these two women gathered a task force of community members to address what until then had been a hidden situation to most of us. Our town and county, indeed Western North Carolina, needed a transitional housing program. The result of the task force efforts is the Clean Slate Coalition. Originally funded by the Human Heart and Hurt Fund of the Episcopal Church in Western North Carolina. We have obtained nonprofit status, and then having established its first board of directors, Clean Slate opened its doors in a rental house. Since then, Jim Gray has given the organization his mother's home, designated the Eliza Gray House, in honor of Ms. Gray, a remarkable woman in her own right. An active board of directors, currently led by Charles Easton, oversees the operation of Clean Slate. The organization runs a cleaning service for homes and businesses and also makes environmentally safe cleaning products to sell, which you can find at the farmer's market. The residents participate in these activities. One resident said to me, "It's spiritual here because it's peaceful. I can find myself here. My children can visit me here. They feel comfortable and they respond to my being truly present with them. I plan to be back with my children in the future, but right now I'm just so grateful for Clean Slate, this safe place where I was so lucky to land." Now will the people representing the finalists for the organizations come forward? Is that what we're doing, Penny?
Okay. We have. You're going to present this to St. John's Episcopal Garden Ministry, finalist
St.
one.
John. Okay, and we need to introduce you as representative.
I'm Patty Curtis. Carrie, why don't you come over here? Carrie's one of the workers in the garden, and our other workers are actually in the garden today.
Okay, as they should, as they should. Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and do that.
You get the
You get the floor, please. Mana Food Bank. Who do we have from Mana Food Bank?
Jennifer Tripp.
Jennifer Tripp. And we have a whole, good process. No, you get to keep this thing here, but Jennifer, thank you so much.
Thank you. Here we go.
Boys and Girls Club in
Boys and Girls Club, yes. Okay, who do we have from Boys and Girls Club?
I'm Josh Helms. I'm the executive director. Alan Tansel is our board president.
Okay, Josh, thank you so much for everything that you do for our community. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And we have our winner. We do have a winner, and our winner is Clean Slate. Who do we have on Clean Slate? Okay, please remind me of your name, Paul? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have this time. Would you like to say a few words?
No. On behalf of the women, the ladies of Clean Slate, and our board of directors, I thank you for this honor. I don't think I could say anything better than what Sue Ellen said just a few minutes ago. We try to provide a safe place for women to rebuild their lives. And it takes a lot of people to do that, but we're doing it. We're modeled on the Thistle Farm program started by Becca Stevens in Nashville, Tennessee. And as Marcia would say, and as Becca would say, love heals. Thank you.
Just give them, everybody, just another round of applause. Thank you so much. And our representatives, you cannot disappear immediately after. We need to take pictures after that, so please hang around after the ceremony today so we can do that. At this point, we do have a little musical interlude. I would like to invite Mrs. Stella Moore to share her gift of music with us. Thank you, Stella. Please give her a hand.
Tis that old ship of Zion. Tis that old ship of Zion. Tis that old ship of Zion. So get on board. Get on board. It has landed many a thousand. It has landed many a thousands. It has landed many a thousand. So get on board. Get on board. 'Tis no danger in its waters. 'Tis no danger in its waters. 'Tis no danger in its waters. So get on board. Get on board. 'Cause King Jesus is its captain. King Jesus is its captain. Oh, King Jesus is its captain. So get on board. Get on board.
It has landed many of thousands. It has landed many of thousands. It has landed many of thousands. So get on board. Get on board. 'Cause King Jesus is its captain. King Jesus is its captain. Oh, King Jesus is its captain. So get on board. Get on board.
It is now time for our individual awards, and at this point what I'd like to do is invite Roy Osborne and Penny Smith. Penny Smith is the chair of our Freedom Fund Committee and also in charge of much of this operation. I'd like to thank him very much and invite him over for this part of the awarding. So please come up and give him a hand, please.
Doing the prop thing again. And I want to do it over the table.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you all so much for coming on a beautiful afternoon to see our little venue here and to celebrate the nominees for Humanitarian of the Year for the NAACP, the 2017 version. It's my distinct honor to introduce these three incredible ladies, the nominees for the award. Each of them has shared enormous amounts of time, energy, and passion as they individually seek to to make our community a better place for everyone. Please be sure to read the full description of their activities in the program, if you would, please. And would each nominee please raise their hand as they are recognized? Thank you. Although we'll be asking you, I think, to come up. So, as Mahatma Gandhi so succinctly stated, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Thank you, Reverend Lee. Don't ever follow Reverend Lee. Please. Consider these nominees as champions that generously lose themselves on a regular basis, and thank you for that. First will be Etta Bennett. Ever since Etta Bennett first organized, I'm going to say this wrong, Solidaridad, a Latino Outreach and Hope Center in Franklin, she has strived to identify and resolve many of the issues that confront the Latino community in Macon County. Every day she does this. Health care, child care, language lessons, navigation of the justice system, the list goes on and on. Etta Bennett early on observed that life in America can be very complex. Excuse me. For those new to the country, and she's assisted hundreds of families and individuals with their integration into their new country. Thank you. Etta continues to serve this very vulnerable community on an everyday basis and continues to innovate solutions to community problems as each new need arises. Mrs. Bennett, please. Next we'll hear about Marcia Kreitz. To use a football metaphor, every event begins with a kickoff, and that is Marcia Kreitz's specialty. Many of us, kicking also is one of our specialties. Many of us observe needs, large and small, in our community every day. The difference is that Marcia acts on those observations by developing unique means to fulfill these needs. She saw the aging of the Jackson County population and the evolution of the Council on Aging began. Local children needing after-school care and tutoring was the impetus for Smart Start. Previously incarcerated women needing housing during their transition back into society became Clean Slate. It's a sure bet if there's a need in the community that Marcia will create a way to make sure that it has a successful resolution. Thank you, Marcia. I do all the work and Enrique gets the hugs. Ruth McConnell, if you say hello, please. Our first inclination in cold, nasty weather is to hunker down in a warm house and avoid the rigors of winter weather. Ruth McConnell sees it differently, especially for those unable to heat their homes. For Jackson Neighbors in Need, an organization that Ruth inherited, she answers the call 24/7. That's an emergency responder kind of a term, and will personally and immediately get that person or family the heat they need without concern for payment. She supports that mission in part by personally raising funds, most deliciously by providing her famous cakes for auction. Ruth also volunteers with Circles of Hope, which we've heard of before here, program preparing and helping with weekly meals for the needy in Jackson County. As her fans will tell you, Ruth considers everyone with a need as family, and she takes care of our family in excellence, and thank you for that.
And now the prop person gets to be the next awkward person who follows Reverend Lee. What's interesting is I have the same parable written down here on my thing, so I won't do that in great detail because I couldn't possibly do that. I often wonder what it is that causes some people to fly into the face of disaster to help someone they don't know, and what it is that keeps some of the rest of us from doing that. What causes the Levite and the priest to keep walking, and the lowly Samaritan to go beyond the walk, to go beyond loving one's neighbor in rhetoric and loving one's neighbor in action. We are living in what is the Chinese curse's version of interesting times. And we are beset in many ways with racial and religious discord, both among races and religions, and within particular races and religious denominations. So probably at this time of our interesting experience, it's good to remember that there are some things that tie us together, that there might be one great natural law that is truthful about humanity. And that is that we are all part of it. We are all part of the same human family. Love thy neighbor as thyself comes from Leviticus, the Jewish tradition. Hurt not others with that which pains you, from the Buddhist tradition. This is the sum of duty. Do not do to others what would cause pain if done to you, the Hindu tradition. None of you truly believes until he wishes for his brother what he wishes for himself, Islam. All things are related. What we do to everything, we do to ourselves. All is one. Black Elk. This year, we had a really interesting time with these awards, because once we got the nominations down to the finalists, we decided, well, we couldn't just do 3 for the organization because they were just so interesting this year. So for those who didn't make it, you didn't make the interesting group, but the group was just really awesome in terms of nominations. And when we got to the final 5, which was hard, we then found ourselves somewhat confounded by what to do with the final 1. So we have final two this year. And the two individuals we're presenting this to in part because they come out of the same tradition and they personify a lot of the same values. They have many of the same experiences, and they reflect our need to cultivate, respect, and honor people who are strangers in our midst. Both of these men have been involved with the work of Physicians for Social Responsibility. Both have worked with the Good Samaritan Clinic. One of them, in fact, was among its founders. Both men believe things like nuclear holocaust, climate change, and the environment are tied to the idea of health. That they are dangerous social pathogens in the same way that microorganisms are physical pathogens. And responsible people should attend them with the same degree of seriousness as physicians attend medical issues. Both of these men have seen troubles some of us missed and have sacrificed financial gains to meet them. Dr. Ron Fisher perceived a need for end-of-life care at a time when palliative care and hospice were not words associated with the general practice of medicine in the mountains. He recertified in hospice care and devoted much of his practice to that particular interest. Interestingly, when I was talking to the people we order these awards from over in Franklin, the woman looked at my list and said, "Oh, Dr. Ron Fisher. He helped deliver two of my kids." And when I moved here, my mom, 8 years after she moved in with us, had a devastating and essentially end-of-life stroke. She lived just a few months longer. And Dr. Ron Fisher was one of the first people that I talked to about what I should do in that particular incident. So here's a man who starts life and a man who helps devastated children come to terms with the end of their parents' life. Dr. Trigg came to Western Carolina initially to work for the Indian Health Service in Cherokee. He then moved into emergency medicine, one of the most traumatic and intensive fields of practice, and then was persuaded to start the WCU program in emergency medicine. But if that wasn't enough, he continued to volunteer at Good Samaritan, at the Cherokee Urgent Care and Hospital ER, and at the Franklin Free Medical Clinic. All too often, we hear that medicine is a business, one that is meant to be lucrative. Yet both of these physicians demonstrate with their actions that what they have is not a job, but a calling. They know what it's like to stop for the roadside stranger. It's not an accident that Good Samaritan Clinic ties them together. The winners this year are the doctors Ron Fisher and David Trigg. And none of you winners can leave here until my magic camera snaps you, because I go from top person to magic camera person. Is this you? Thank you. Thank you. And thank you very much. It was time of my life.
And Dr. David Trigg, proud to present to you for all of the good work you've done in your life. Would you like to say a few words, anyone?
When I learned of my nomination, I was frustrated because I had been aware of Ron's being nominated, and working in the Good Samaritan Clinic with Ron was fun. The nurses looked forward to his coming, and when we'd worked together in the Good Sam Clinic, he had such a sense of humor. when the Good Samaritan Clinic was coming to its end because we were going to be subsumed by the Blue Ridge Health Center, and we were in our last few months, and Ron would come to the clinic, we were wondering about volunteer appreciation, and we didn't have an awards ceremony for volunteer appreciation, but had we had one, I would have nominated Ron. He had been with the Good Samaritan Clinic longer than any of the other physicians, had been involved in its founding with Judith Halleck, and had continued. This was in addition to all the other things that were going on with Ron. His commitment and responsibilities at the health department as their medical director, and then working in hospice and palliative medicine. So we didn't have an award ceremony. So when there was the nomination for the NAACP Humanitarian Award, I was pulling for Ron. Ron and I have joked over the years about our 1985 being award of the Nobel Peace Prize. As a Physicians for Social Responsibility member, by extension, we were Nobel laureates. So it's an honor to share the nomination with all of the nominees and with you, Ron. Thank you. Okay. Can I say one more thing? Do you know any other doctors in Jackson County who have been here since 1980 and continue to see patients the entire time and start programs? I mean, there's only one other doctor that I know of that was here before 1980 and served the community as long as Ron did. It's just been a phenomenal service.
So we come to the end of the ceremony, and I am very deeply touched. And I whispered to Ron, you were deeply concerned about your tears on my coat, and I was thinking, oh no, it's a blessing. It really is a blessing. That reflection of love coming to you for the community, and for the community to you and to David, it's absolutely wonderful. And just to reflect on what has happened today, what have we chosen to honor today in this moment, in this time. We have chosen to honor the instilling of healthy habits of exercise with play in children and youth in after-school programs. We have celebrated the breaking of the cycle of prison recidivism through work with dignity. We have celebrated the restoration of the spirit of struggling families with 34,000 meals per day. We have come here to celebrate the bringing them of nutrition with meals harvested fresh from a local farm. We have come here to celebrate the reaching out to immigrant communities and providing English language, parenting, work skills, healthy living classes to them. We have celebrated the sharing of your know-how on how to start nonprofits. We have celebrated the providing of medical services to the uninsured. We have celebrated the confronting of environmental damage and nuclear proliferation. We have celebrated the bringing of the gift of heat to struggling citizens in the depth of winter. We have celebrated the nurturing of one's souls with strawberry cakes. And we have celebrated the helping of bringing babies to this world and to helping people die and end their lives with dignity. So, and we are celebrating taking up the cross of service and loving your neighbor as yourself. So with that, I want to have another round to all awardees and nominees. Thank you so much. If you're interested in continuing the work of justice, I want to extend to you an invitation to join us as members of the NAACP. If you are not already a member, if you are a member of the local branch of the NAACP, if you could please stand up. If you could please stand up. Okay, thank you so much. And just look around, and if you see the people standing up and you are not a member, reach out to the closest member and talk to them about what it means to be a member. And if you could please sit down, thank you so much. We do have a regular membership committee meeting that is coming up, a membership committee coming up this coming Saturday on the 21st. And that is going to be at Liberty Baptist, and we usually have it at 10 o'clock, but because we wanted to accommodate the 12 who care elder dinner on that same day, we instead are going to have it at 2 o'clock. So we'll send our reminders to that. So next Saturday at 2 o'clock at Liberty Baptist. And we do have a closing prayer. We have the Reverend Patricia Harris Curtis of St. John Episcopal Church. Patty, if you could please help us with an invocation and closing prayer. Thank you so much.
What a gift it is to be here with all of you, to hear all of the work that is happening in our community. I am humbled and honored by everything that happens in this community and the love that is in this room for everyone in our community. So please stand as you are able. The Lord be with you. And also with you. Let us pray. God of love, God of all creation, whose Son Jesus came not to be served, but to serve, bless all who, following in his way, give themselves to the service of others, that with wisdom, patience, and courage, they may continue to serve the least, the lost, and all who have been left behind. And please draw our hearts to you, guide our minds, and fill our imaginations so that our community can come closer to becoming your beloved community, where no one is least, where no one is lost, where no one is left behind. We give you thanks for the gifts you have given to those who are here with us today, who devote themselves in the service of you and so many, those who are for us the hands and feet of Jesus in our community. Use each one of us, we pray, as you will, always to your glory and always to the welfare of your people, so that we may give up ourselves to your service and always walk before you in holiness and righteousness all our days. Amen. Amen.